Hello, and welcome to the More Cheese, Less Whiskers podcast. My name is Dean Jackson, and today we're talking with Kirby Virden. And Kirby has a sign company that helps businesses with their outdoor signage. And we had a really great conversation talking about the kind of the mistakes that people make with their signs. And we went into some of the discussion of what the purpose of signage is and how, when you really think about it, if you're focused on the outcome, what's the job of work that you really want that sign to do. It's a little different thinking than just kind of putting your logo and your company name up there. And he's learned a lot about what works and what doesn't work in signs. But we had a really great conversation about how to find people who are thinking about getting signs upstream before it ever gets to the point that they're just submitting requests for proposals from every sign company in town. How could we find those people earlier? So I think you're going to enjoy this episode. Talk to you soon. Kirby Virden.
Hey, Mr. Dean Jackson, how are you?
I am good. It's a long time in the making right here.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I've got to tell you a story about that, Dean. I submitted the request to be on the show. I think it was October 2016 or so. And I've been a fan of yours, since I love marketing for sure. I got introduced to you there. But you've already had a very positive impact on my business, and I've already learned a ton from you. But didn't know if I was ever going to have the opportunity to speak with you directly like this. I can say at the beginning of the year, it's one of the strange things where I thought, this year I really want to meet Dean Jackson. It's just, it's
this is the year.
I wanted to do. This is the year. So the morning I heard from Lillian, I was out taking care of some business and drove past a guy walking down the road. Very bitter, cold morning, winter morning. It was probably 7 degrees or less outside, and wind was blowing. And this guy really grimaced as I walked past him just from the cold wind. And so I kept driving, but I couldn't get this image out of my head of him suffering in this weather. So I'm like, I got to turn around. And so I was maybe 2 miles down the road. I turn around, I go back and get the guy. I pick him up, and he's trying to make it back to his car. He's living in his car, and he's out of gas and all of this. And so I helped get him squared away and get back on my way. And I would say 30 minutes later, Lillian emails me and says, hey, are you still available to jump on a call with Dean? I'm like,
boy.
The universe works in strange ways, right?
That's really something. That's amazing.
Yeah, it was.
Here we are.
And here we are. Outstanding, Dean.
So tell me, what's the Kirby story?
The Kirby story. I worked in the corporate world for about 17 years in finance, but I've been passionate about business really my whole adult life. It was something that very much interested me. Whether it's nonfiction books is principally what I read all the time. I watch business programs and, always wanted to be in business for myself, but couldn't find the passionate thing that I wanted to go after. Well, in the meantime, I'm spending all my free time reading these books and watching shows like The Prophet and all of that. And it just occurred to me one day that my passion is really business.
Yes.
Right? And so then I could worry less about, what business would I find the most engaging? And I started thinking about things like, who do I want to be a hero to, and what do I want my lifestyle to be like, and how can I fulfill those aspects of it while being engaged in business, which is something I really enjoy. And I ended up buying this sign company and have, for the last 3 years, almost getting ready to begin year number 4, I've been able to serve other business owners, which to me are just, they're consistently fantastic people, hardworking, good values, really are trying to make a difference for themselves and their community. And they're just people I really enjoy engaging with. So
business owners. Me too.
Yeah. So it's been a fantastic journey, Dean. It was a long time getting here, and it's got its own set of challenges. You lose all the support structure you used to when you work in a bigger company, and you've got to kind of figure these things out on your own. But it's been absolutely engaging and just a wonderful experience so far.
So what did you know about the sign business going into it? You decide you're going to buy a sign business. What made you think, yep, this is the one?
Yeah, nothing. I mean, nothing.
Okay.
I think maybe you and Dan have talked about, to be an entrepreneur, you have to be courageous and insane or something like that. I mean, my confidence level way exceeded my, my knowledge level. It was, the margins looked good to me in the business, and I thought it was something that, I bought a one-man operation. There was no real rhyme or reason to the types of products he was offering to the market. I was already familiar with your concepts of, picking that single target market. And so when I got into the business, I spent that first 6 or 9 months just kind of learning what he's doing. And really it was similar to what everybody in the space was doing, which is, we'll take the shotgun approach and we'll just offer everything. And if you want to buy it from us, we'll sell it to you.
Right.
And so, it was nearly impossible to deliver any of that well because, small operation, you just don't have the resources to offer the broad product range and build expertise in every area. And so somewhere in there, you guys started talking about, the largest check clients and using that as a way to think about where you might want to initially focus. And I stepped back after that first 6 months or so, and I said, okay, 80% of our revenue is coming from this little area over here that's only taking about 15 or 20% of our time. We're spending the rest of our time on all the rest of the stuff that isn't making us any money. It's time to focus. And
that's
so
great.
that was the real initial game changer for me. And that first year, Dean, of owning the business, it was up 65%. Kind of after I got focused. And my life got a lot better. My time was a lot better spent. I was able to bring in the right type of help to free me to focus on the really critical things. We were able to develop the expertise in that area that made our sales process more efficient because now we can talk about that as experts and point out things that, anybody else that was maybe focusing on trying to sell 100 different things, there's subtleties that they would lose that are really important at the end of the day, and they make a big difference to the customer. So the signs that we sell at this point are signs that go on storefront buildings, really in retail spaces like restaurants or automotive repair. And I've seen a lot of those as I've become more familiar with the space that, I know those people spent good money on, but they didn't get the result that I'm sure they hoped because there were things done with the colors and there were things done with the layout that just didn't translate into being, sometimes it's as simple as being nice and legible. I mean, these are seen from the road. They're seen as you're driving by. They have to be clearly visible to your prospective customers. You've got to have a message that's really succinct. You don't have time to throw a lot of words up there. They've got a split second to glance over. You've got to say the right thing. As
now,
people
are you
look at your
talking
business.
about their I'll call it their identity sign, like the main identifier sign, or are you talking about using signs as a marketing piece, like secondary to like the identifier of their business kind of thing?
Yeah, and I maybe struggle with a distinction there, but I would address it the way you've labeled it. I'm talking about their identifier sign.
Okay.
And what I mean by using it as effectively as a marketing tool, we put together a guide of the 4 fatal flaws of exterior sign design. And one of the images we have in and one of the images we have in there It's side-by-side signs. One of them is really small letters, hard to read, bad color choice, but it says like a day at the beach. Right next to that sign is a large red letters, you can see it from a mile away, law office.
Yes.
Right? So I have no idea if I go to like a day at the beach, what I'm going to experience. I don't know what the store is. I don't know when I might need to go. I clearly understand what to expect if I go to a law office, right? So it's identification, but to me it's also clear marketing, if that makes sense. It's a clear message. You guys talk about the difference between branding and direct response marketing, and to me that is maybe an illustration of that. Like a day at the beach, that might be a great brand if you've got the money to put behind it and educate the market on what to expect if they come to your store. But
is that a tanning salon? Is it a spa? Is it what is it? Is it a surf shop? Is it that could be anything.
Right.
A law office can't be many more things than a law office. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And so that's maybe an interesting distinction for people, that they somehow think that they've got to have a sign that is their logo and the business name. It's interesting, right? Like that's kind of what what maybe people think, and it's really not doing them any good. And they would be better to have a more useful set of words.
The way I think about it, and the way I've even talked about it with some of my prospects, Dean, is you can talk about who you are or what you do, and I think about your real estate seminar example. Like, I'll give everybody in here 30 seconds to come up to the stage and tell us who you are. But maybe what would be most effective is I just, and you're in that example, you're telling people, I'll just give you the 50 people in the room who's going to buy a house. I guess the way I would phrase that for my business is, the people driving by need to know what you do. If you're not if you don't have the branding capacity to teach them who you are, the what you do is going to be more important, because I'm not driving down the road thinking about, like a day at the beach. I may be driving down the road thinking about, I need a tanning salon or whatever. You know what I mean? And I still have no idea what that business does, by the way, so I can't tell you. But, clearly, if I'm in a situation where I'm thinking about, I need an attorney, and I glance over and I see a law office, well, they might get me to walk through the door. Right.
I think that's amazing. So that's a cool thing. I mean, one of the most effective signs that I've ever seen was just a sign on a residential yard that is on a fairly busy street, like a cross street that you end up going through a neighborhood, and the sign just said Tupperware sold here.
Right.
And but there's, you think about what that is doing. That's like, if you know what Tupperware is, if you're interested in that there it is.
That's it.
It's kind of an interesting thing, right? Like that, being overt, especially when you have such limited attention, makes a big difference. I was like, there's an old saying, sometimes the best way to sell a horse is with a sign that says horse for sale, rather than trying to talk about freedom and all these, ancillary things that come with it. But just sometimes the minimum thing. What would you say overtly if it was, you have one chance to let somebody know what that is? What are some of the best examples of signs that you've seen or used to display or share with people the effective sign usage?
I mean, great examples. Like when you said that about the yard sign, I was going to tell you about one that's right around the corner from me at the moment. And it's similarly, it's a yard sign, and it says book fair. Well, it's scholastic, which everyone knows who Scholastic is. The branding's not a problem. And it's on there. I've stopped and looked at the sign. It's on there. It's 1-inch tall letters. Down on the bottom right corner of the sign, it's Scholastic.
Yeah.
But what the 3 or 4-inch letters that everybody can read as they drive by is Book Fair.
Yes.
And so you know exactly what you're going to get. The signs I'm proudest of that we've done, Dean, are where we've walked in to a new business who is excited about their branding and their logo, and they've done a great job on it. But it doesn't communicate an effective message. And we've been able to work with them to turn that into a sign that still incorporates, whether it's colors or font style or whatever, of their brands. There's some consistency there, but the message it communicates is much, much clearer.
Yes. What is the cost for sign? Like, what's your typical customer spending?
Sure. So what we're talking about as far as the typical sign that we sell are these individually lighted letters that you would see on a storefront. They're called channel letters. And our average price for those is around $4,500 to $5,000.
Mm-hmm. About $4,500. And how long does that last?
8 to 10 years without a problem.
Yeah, okay. Got it. And are people looking at, so you're not doing like the backlit storefront, like you see at strip plazas or whatever built in the thing. It's the individual letters,
right?
Not
and
like
they can't be
not
backlit,
like a graphic sign, or
we'll incorporate like the logo potentially. We did one where it's 2 dogs and a cat. It's a dog daycare place, and so we have their cat and dog logo up there beside their lighted letters, but their letters say 2 dogs and a cat. Law office, those individually lighted letters. If you're thinking, what signs do I typically see in like a strip mall? That identify the businesses that are there. That's the signs to have in mind when you talk about what business I'm in. I mean, that's what we do.
Yeah. Okay. So I look at it. That's an interesting opportunity. We had I had a client who got a new real estate office in Toronto, and but it was on a nice corner, and it was an older building, so they had kind of a nice, angled corner sign. And rather than put the name of the company and the logo and that kind of thing, we put the website. So it was, we named the place. This was in the kind of late 90s, early 2000s, when everything was, being able to search homes online was a new thing and a great appeal. We put up realestateviewingcenter.com, and encouraging people that either way, if they came in, they could search homes online and do all that stuff there, or they could do it at home, right? Because we had the .com on there. But to encourage people to come in, we added the words on the sign, free popsicles. And it was something that was like this little pattern interrupt, right? And everybody would kind of, see it, and then they'd kind of laugh, and you'd poke their head in, right? And we had this little freezer with popsicles. So that was to let people know, you can come in, Kind of an interesting thing.
Absolutely.
I think in a lot of cases, do you encourage people to put their .com on the sign?
We haven't done that. I mean, I would say That's an interesting idea, Dean. How I've viewed it for my customers is they're generally trying to attract people into their physical location, right? So for most of my customers, ultimately what they want is the customer to cross that threshold and come inside. And so, for me, that first piece is they need to know what you offer, and that scan, the environment. We're all overwhelmed. You've got to cut through that noise, and so what that resonates well with my customers generally because they're paying for expensive retail space. Part of the reason they're paying for that is they believe in the traffic count, and they believe, that their contingency of customers is going to be in that area and all of those things. And so that's a real effective way for me to engage with them. What I find for most of my customers that is important for them as far as engaging online is in their social media marketing. You can imagine a new bar opening up. That's probably a big platform for them. So we have done some things like on the windows of putting some of their social media icons and that. We've never incorporated those into the identification signs though necessarily.
Interesting. So it's a pretty cool potential thing. Because when you think about it, if it's, $4,500, for that's going to last for 8 years, there's sort of one of the problems with it is the permanence of it, that it's not something you can change. Do you do anything with digital signs, where do you think just long-term the future of signs is going?
Yeah, and I've thought about that because you talk about it a lot as well in terms of what you think may happen in the real estate market. But you talk about that kind of that last, maybe you called it the last inch or the last mile. I don't remember.
The last 100 feet, yeah.
Okay, the last 100 feet. Yeah, where regardless of what's happening as far as market efficiency, you've still got to kind of close the deal at the end. And so, I think as far as how that translates to signs, I don't think physical retail space is going away. I think continuing to advertise what you're offering in that physical space is going to continue to be a very important thing to do. Digital signage has had some impact, but the technology is not great, and a lot of municipalities won't allow it. They don't want flashy scrolling signs.
Gotcha.
And that bit. So I've thought a lot about the technological impacts to the business potentially, and whether it turns into incorporating 3D printing at some point. I feel like the manufacturing technologies could be affected, but I think at the end of the day, you're still going to need that sign on your storefront. It's large enough to be read, and spacing's right, the color's right. If you got to convey that message at night, you're lit up where you can do that. So that's my thoughts as of now, Dean. I don't see anything kind of disrupting that in the near future.
Yeah. And that's, fair enough. When you look at it, there are certain things that you're still, there's still going to be that desire to go into a physical location to see stuff or to get stuff, especially in niches or services types of things. So what's your marketing challenge right now? What's the thing that you're trying to figure out?
Sure. I mean, if I look at Profit Activator Scorecard and rate myself on those things, I feel like, the target market was a good one to select and focus on. And so I feel like that's gone well. There are opportunities, though, to further refine the message to that market, and even the rebranding of the company that I did after that first year. It was Santa Fe Signs, which was kind of generic and named after a street where the business was located for a period of time. And I renamed it to max some outdoor signs, and I at least try to get that focus on outdoor signs. So let's get focused there.
Yes.
But I thought about, do I need to go further? Because that's good, but it's not quite we shoot bottles,
Right.
Right. So there's still all kinds of outdoor signs that can be done, and we don't necessarily cover all of those. And so that's definitely an aspect. Improving my ability to make my invisible prospects visible is an aspect of it. Differentiating on the offer. It's something I've had a hard time with. I mean, the focus and the expertise, there's some of that we can convey that has sort of that engaged, in the sales process. It does help with some differentiation. It's not usually the deciding factor for somebody, though. It's interesting, but it's not compelling enough, right? It's just, I'm not going to buy from you just because of that. It's interesting that you do that. You maybe said something that was insightful, but we all know the impact of that conversation, with everything going on. If you can imagine when somebody's trying to open a business, is probably a pretty short-lived impact. And when they come back to it 4 or 5 days later, they're going to be looking at three signed proposals and go, I don't even remember who told me that is important. And, but this guy's cheaper, so I'm going to call him. And so there's that offer aspect where I feel like there's a lot of opportunity for us as well.
So I think that part of the thing, are you mostly doing new business signs or replacing signs that for an existing business? Like they're saying, we really need to redo our sign, or we want to get a new sign, or are you doing it for new businesses that are just getting started?
It's principally new businesses.
Okay. So once somebody gets locked in, they're not really thinking about, like, we need to change up our sign.
That's right. And, and we have a fair amount, even given that. It's kind of surprising to me that we still have a fair amount of repeat and referral business. That comes from either somebody who's, successful and expanding, opening up another location, or it comes from, I told a friend that you guys did a great job for us, kind of a thing.
Right.
So that's still a big piece, but I feel like it is, it's similar to selling a house to somebody. They're gonna buy that house and they're gonna be there for a while. And so you're not gonna be selling them another house next week. And that's the same thing I kind of face here. They are the signs lasting as long as they do, and that it's not where I'm, I can rely on that customer base that I'm building, other than sort of that return on I want to call it return on referral, but I know that's not quite the phrase you use.
Return on relationships,
Return on relationship,
Okay, so how many of these new businesses are there in the market where are you geographically constrained to a certain area, or do you do all over, or how do you target?
Realistically, it's the metropolitan area that I'm in, and fortunately, it's large enough and a healthy enough economy that there's plenty of opportunity. My best guess for market size is somewhere in the neighborhood of $50 million spread across the companies doing sign work in this area. That is a mix, Dean, of, I would say, dollar-wise, it's probably most significantly leaning toward the national brands who are either coming into the area or expanding in the area. So whether it's, McDonald's is maybe not the best example, but, any of those fast food chains as they come in. And they'll do business generally with a different tier of company than I am. It's more of a wholesale transaction, and it's just different.
And they've already got the design.
Try to market to those guys. Right.
Wholesale.
Right. So, when you take that piece off, which is a significant piece, how much is left of the individual business owner opening up a space? It's not a huge market, but my business has been growing at a healthy pace, and I know I don't have a large percentage of that market. So I feel like there's plenty of market opportunity within this metropolitan area.
And then, so how do you find those new businesses right now? Do you have access, or do you hope that they find you, or what's your strategy to reach them?
My most effective on that front has been paid advertising, online paid advertising, Google AdWords. I've tried Facebook advertising. I tried to do some direct postcard marketing, referring to a free recorded message. What I found on that, and the general challenge I have, Dean, is there's not a great list of who's getting ready to open a store.
Right.
You can find the new business who recently opened fairly easily, but by then it's obviously too late. So to find that list ahead of time has been a challenge. So I really have to get them on the website, give them enough information that they feel compelled to either submit a form there or pick up the phone.
Right. So who else would know about these people? Like, I'm thinking initially, this is kind of how I think through a process like this, is that, okay, they're going to go into, commercial space. Like, I look for where are the things that are going to happen here, right? Like, so it would definitely be driven by the precursor of somebody's moving into a new commercial space, or relocating their business into that space. So I would look at that as kind of the new thing, and then what would be the chain of events there that would be available for you to reach those people upstream. Like, by the time they get their sign decision, what else is in that decision chain that comes before or after they make the sign decision? First of all, the first thing is they're going to, let's just pick it up from they find the location. So that's where they're going to be. Now they've got to do their build out and their, getting everything prepared for their business. What else, what's along that line?
Sure. And so if we pick it up from that starting point, I feel like if there's a precursor to that starting point, it's that they are working with a property manager, or they're engaged in discussions with a property manager. And that may be the very first thing. I've also thought that there could have been conversations with commercial lenders ahead of that. At some point along the line, there's going to be conversations with commercial insurance agents. There's certainly, as you said, on the build out, there's contractors who that they're going to engage with. If I look at sort of those players, I have some property management customers who are very good customers and very good referral sources for me. That particular set of people, I think, would be high value for me to, if I could figure out a way to make it rewarding for them, to refer their new or prospective tenants to me. That would be. And
what about the commercial real estate agents?
Yeah, right. Another good one.
So I look at it that I keep reminding myself as you're talking, and about how sort of this kind of it's not a sort of pivotal decision. It seems like to me people are not really thinking about their sign as a strategic thing per se, as we got to budget this for how much do we need for signage, like just like a we got to do it, right? And they're not thinking about it that way. but they're mostly thinking about budgeting for it and setting that up. And in a lot of cases, are the commercial developers like paying for that as part of the build out for them? That includes signage, or are you dealing with the end user? You know?
Yeah, it comes down to the end user who's the decision maker. Mm-hmm.
All right, so they get it. That now, I think about this. I did some work with a party rental company. I don't know whether I've told this story, but they're in Toronto. They're a party rental company, meaning a company that does for events. They'll rent tables and chairs and linens and dishes and all that stuff, right? Everything, portable parties. If you're going to do an event, and that's where you get all the stuff, right? And I asked them what the most, what their largest check was, right? What's the biggest thing? And the jackpot for a party rental company is an outdoor wedding, because they get the tent and the table and the chairs, and possibly 2 tents, because they have another area for the ceremony and then one for the reception. And it's a big ticket item. But picking a party rental company is not one of the sexy things or exciting things about planning a wedding, right? So nobody gets excited and puts like pictures of party rental ads in their hope chest, right? That's not the thing that you think about. But when you think about the decision process here of where this starts, it starts when somebody says, "Will you marry me?" And they say, "I will." Now they are on this path that the very first thing that they do is pick the date and the location, right? Where and when. That's the most important thing. We got to get it on the calendar. We got to reserve our spot, right? Now, if they want to have an outdoor wedding, their question is, well, where are we going to do it? And this guy had been, their family business. They've been in business for 30 plus years, and they've, seen all kinds of different places that you wouldn't even know that you could have an outdoor wedding. And so I had him put together a directory to 100 great places to have an outdoor wedding in Toronto. And start advertising that guide as a lead generator. Not even mentioning that they're a party rental company, but just advertising the directory, because now that gets them an audience, or gets them an invisible prospect of somebody who is planning an outdoor wedding. And they were able to turn that into a profit center. Where they were able to turn the guide, they were able to get money from the venues to be included in the guide. They were able to get money from other people who are also interested in finding brides, DJs, band bookers, bridal companies, caterers, all of those things who also want to try and find a bride.
Yeah.
And they were able to, get their leads now for free or at a profit. And so I look at it that the way, anytime you can think upstream like that, like how can you help, identify somebody at the earliest, opportunity that you have. So when you look at it, when I think about somebody opening a new business, they're going to be looking for commercial space, right? And so I look at it that the realtors are really going to be they're looking for that person too. and most of them are not doing it very well. Like most of the real estate agents don't have a real direct response approach to finding people. Like if I were thinking this through, I might start advertising, because before they're looking for a sign, they're looking for a space, right? They're looking for, So, that's got to come first. And it's not until they find the space that they're ready to get the sign. But it can all happen quickly. Commercial things always sort of happen, probably a little faster than residential, in terms of people could look for, a long, long time before they find the right house or think about it, but mostly commercial, it happens pretty quickly. So when you look at it, that I might look at doing something like that, of having a, the March 2018 report on retail or retail commercial space prices, to see kind of like where you can maybe even partner with a realtor to get that kind of information, to help them identify people that they can help find space, but then you also get introduced to those people as well,
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great idea. Dean, if we drill down into that a little bit, help me think through a couple aspects of it.
Yep.
So you said specifically, as you threw out a title idea on retail space.
Yep.
Do you envision this being, you have one for retail space and one for restaurant space, and kind of, do I look at my markets like from that perspective and
I think so, because that would be like
okay.
I think it would be like we shoot bottles and we shoot cans, because you could do that same thing.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, we were running, that kind of thing where you're looking at the specifics. So, I mean, retail, those are your two big ones, right? Retail and restaurant?
Yeah. Well, yes, I would say so.
Mm-hmm. So I think that's I think that would be a really good thing for somebody who's in the market of looking for space. That's gonna jump out. And so there's some there's some cool opportunities there. When I look at it, that what would come first, like when you look upstream or the chain of events, when would somebody register their new business license? Would it be prior to or after they've already found their space? Like, what would be, most of them are registered locally, right? You have to register your business license. So that's an available list of new licenses, right? New business licenses.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering when that comes, whether it's after the location. It's been so long since I registered mine. I don't remember when.
Sure.
We do it. Do you know?
Yeah, and I don't know, Dean. I mean, I'm kind of thinking about, just I've talked to enough people at this point. It wouldn't surprise me greatly that they kind of do it after the fact, because I think what's compelling people to open this first store is, their dream of delivering whatever result they hope to, right? And they just, I'm opening a ladies' boutique, fashion and accessories. So I'm all excited about, well, what products am I going to get to offer, and how am I going to, How's the environment going to be? Maybe exactly, and all of those things. And then they find the space, and oh yeah, you're probably right. I need to put that in a business, and so I'm going to have to register, and maybe I don't want it in my personal name, and now I got to go through those things. Right. Mm-hmm. So, and then it's the same type of thing. And then somewhere along the way, with all those other things that you're going to have to decide about, you're going to have to decide about a sign as well. But it just, it wouldn't surprise me, Dean, if that's an almost after the fact kind of thing. But I don't, it's not something I know. One of the municipalities here had a great online resource for, some of their business registrations, new ones, and that they're very specific about not using that as a marketing tool, and they've since sort of changed the access to that, so it's not as easy to get to the list as it used to be. It's something I looked into in the past, but it was another mixed bag, and I'm not saying it couldn't be explored further and leveraged in some way, but that one was that's not as clear to me as what you're talking about as far as the commercial agents and the kind of thinking about that space as far as this stream of events and what's upstream from what I'm doing.
Yeah, right. And that might be a good thing, So thinking outside of the box there. Have you ever heard of the company Deluxe? They're, one of these huge under the radar kind of companies. They do business forms and checks and letterheads and business cards and all those kinds of things, all the printed things for businesses. And one of the things that they do as a kind of loss leader is they do logo design. And if you think about kind of the brilliance of that, is that what better way to get and establish a brand new customer than to be the one that helps them design the logo that they're now going to need for letterhead and checks and business cards and all that stuff.
Sure.
It's like they're not trying to advertise about selling all the paper goods and stuff that they sell. They're meeting people where they are at the genesis of it, which is truly the genesis, the logo, So I'm thinking about perhaps the designers or the people, the local graphic designers might be a great opportunity for you as well,
Yes, absolutely.
Especially for local businesses, because they may be thinking, oh, I need to go uptown here and look for get somebody to help with a logo.
Sure. Yeah.
Because that's kind of that's one of those kind of dream things that's what, when people are starting a business, that's what kind of makes it real. When they get the name of their business, they start floating it around, and they get that pride now of birthing this thing that's separate from them, right? They've got this business now that they're playing around with the name of it, like A Day at the Beach. They were really excited about that, right? When they came up with that name, because they thought that was really clever.
Right.
And then somebody had to then help them with the logo for it. And now it became real then, right?
Absolutely. That's when you start seeing it come to life. Yeah, that's an exciting moment for sure.
Yeah. And then, so it's kind of an interesting thing that if there was a way then to kind of educate people about what you know and what you've learned about signs, like I think there's some, do you have really good like examples of great signs versus bad signs, like illustrating the things and the ways that people go wrong, the things that are disappointing, and the things that would maybe be a checklist for making sure that your sign does these things, do the 100-yard test or the 100 feet test or whatever, the drive-by how big, do the letters have to be, and all those kind of things that are going to make your sign more successful.
Yeah, we definitely have that, and I mean, I pulled some of that together when I did the 4 fatal flaws of sign design, because it was really important to here's good, here's bad, side by side, and it that picture is really what you need to see, and then you can throw some text in there to explain the concept, but you see that picture and it tells you that it gets the message across. So even today, if I see a poorly done sign, usually I'll take a picture of it, because there's some aspect of that I not only think I could communicate to prospects, but I want to be sure that we're learning from it too, right? So there was something about that sign that wasn't quite right, and I don't want to do that to somebody. So let's take a look at this and what could have made this better. And so we definitely have examples of here's something that's well done, and here's something that could have been done a little bit better.
Yeah. And are there certain things that that give people an option for, I'll call them, like, how in have you ever seen, there's a book called Eat This, Not That, where they'll show you something, but then there's that's the high calorie option, but then here's the low calorie version of that kind of thing, or get the look for less kind of thing. Like, here's this dress that somebody was wearing on the red carpet, and here's the same look, get the look for less. Yep. Are there things that that you can do that are tying into sort of sign trends that you can get that look or get that effectiveness for less money? Are there ways to save money on a sign, or to get more for your money kind of thing?
I think a lot of that can come into, I don't want to harp too much on one aspect, but the message can be an aspect of that, because the thing that's really going to drive price of the sign is how big you make it, and how much you say, essentially. So the more you feel like you need to say a full phrase, it's going to be hard to save you money on that. But if what's critical is some smaller condensed aspect of that phrase, or we can design the sign in a way where we can still have a fairly long phrase up there, but it's not the prominent piece of the sign, so it's not the biggest piece, then those types of things definitely be done to not only save the customer some money, but also help them have a much more effective advertising piece in their identification signage.
Yeah. And so I wonder if there's examples, like it might be a really great thing for you to research and compile a idea guide that has really great examples of winning signs. Like, are there companies that you think that you know of that are really based on a or aided by their sign? Like, I think when you think about it, like same day dry cleaning are words that would be a great thing on a if you're a dry cleaner, right? That you convey that message. Are there examples of like really great messaging that could be an opportunity here, to get somebody thinking strategically about their signs?
There are, and I think the most compelling one that I've personally found was because you can find industry stuff, but of course the industry stuff you've got to take with a little bit of a grain of salt. So you can find, things from the sign associations, and they'll talk about customer traffic and the effect of the signs on that. But a university did a study of it as well, and part of what they identified through that study was, what are people looking for when they go to buy a sign, what are their top 3 or 4 things that they're interested in. But then they also took a look at, new customer sort of acquisition for the physical retail space by simply doing this across like 400 businesses. Ask for the first 6 months, every new customer who comes in, how'd you hear about our store? And what they found by doing that was that about 47% of new customers walking into the space heard about the store because of the sign. And so to me, that was a big an important and compelling piece in terms of trying to start to think about your sign strategically. The sort of the gap that I have to bridge, Dean, is from, I got the call today because they're calling 3 companies looking for pricing and they need a sign in 3 weeks, and their budget's already pretty spent because they've been doing all this build out and it costs more than they expected, and now they just need to get the sign up and get their doors open. And so I'm operating with someone in that mindset who's probably, understands what I'm trying to say, but the stress level's at 10 and time frame is short, and to move them from that mindset to think about the strategic value of the sign and the fact that this is a critical piece potentially of your advertising, that's a big gap to jump by the time I usually talk to them. So, again, maybe coming back to these upstream ideas, can I get in that conversation earlier? And how can I get to somebody to start thinking about, not as, I don't want your tent going in your hope chest, but earlier than you maybe considered it, you need to think about what you're going to do with your sign. And it really needs to be part of the space you decide to lease as well. I mean, if there are things that you think you need to do, that can be controlled by the development itself, and the landlord may not permit certain things. So, I would love to be in the conversation early. I just don't. Yeah. I just haven't found the right way the right hook to grab people at that time.
I got it. And so I think that the real estate side may be that makes probably the closest sense then, rather than as the getting in the strategic decision. But if you could identify who the people are who are moving into a new space, that's going to be as good as it could get for you, I guess, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's really great. And so then it's just a matter of, if that's the right place to look for the starving crowd, then what is the right message to deliver to that crowd? And so I like the idea book. Part of what we've done with the fatal flaws is like, here's the things you definitely want to avoid. What I'm still not as sure about is what trigger can I use to get them to start to think about design, to consider maybe they do want to look at how you make mistakes and be sure to avoid that. Maybe they do want to look at an idea book to start to contrast, good versus bad. And are they going to do that? How early are they going to do that? Potentially it's enough to have that prospective pool of customers and to have the advertising going to them in the guide to retail space prices. Yeah, I mean, what if there was that's a great thing. But what if you started thinking about it in terms of the positive and bake it right in? Like, so I have a company called moneymakingwebsites.com. Right. Okay. Yeah, and that's pretty clear, like what that's about, right? I mean, it's not, you're saying, I wonder if you get people thinking about that it's like money-making signs is kind of a good way to think about this, Right. And I'm wondering about one of the things I'm thinking about. What's that? You're breaking up there. There we go. Okay. Yeah, sorry, I got all excited. I sat up and undid my headset. I started thinking about this idea of the money-making signs
I wonder if there's, like, in addition, I think we're pretty confident that if you could find people ahead of time and you're just the sign company that's there and you can get them the same day quote and you give them the idea guide and answer their questions so that because they're mostly like worried about budgeting questions more than efficacy, right? So now
exactly.
what if, but do you also do additional signage? Like, do you do other kinds of signs than just those? I'm thinking about, like, outside of the box here. Is there an opportunity for you to create a category that you're not competing with anybody, but that there are more maybe temporary type of things or adjustable or signs that they could use as promotional signs or things that window signs or things that are going to they could use strategically?
Yeah, I had an idea at one point that I didn't follow through on that, and you're reminding me of it, and it's a great question to raise. What I thought about in terms of how to both separate myself, but to continue to offer value and increase the lifetime value of the customer over time would be something like, there's maybe 4 times a year when a retail space wants to do that additional promotional advertising, right? Or whatever the number of times is. There are certain holidays where everybody's going to promote, could we package at the beginning, maybe along with the identification sign, some aspect of that first year of promotional marketing activity. We're going to deliver, the window posters and maybe some point of sale and maybe some outdoor temporary signage flags or something, to help you promote during those seasonal periods when you want to run a sale. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And even like some outdoor things, like when for after hours, when they're not there, or people walking by, that they can pick stuff out of an info box, like you start to think about that as an opportunity for some additional, like, strategic street level kind of thinking about signs.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, there's some, that opens up a whole world of opportunities there. But so what do you see so far? I mean, time flew by here, but what's your takeaway from what we talked about so far? What do you think the action items are here?
Yeah, I mean, there's a whole bunch. I mean, that last one alone would be a great one to pursue. I think the one I'm excited about is the upstream idea that we kind of came out of the gate with when we started to talk about identifying these invisible prospects. Because, it brings both things to the table. One, developing a relationship with commercial real estate agents who can be a great referral source.
Yes.
And 2, getting something more relevant into the right people's hands at the right time that I can then piggyback on to advertise my business. And so I think, tying in then on that, maybe the advertising happening there is the idea book and that piece. And then, this final idea of, some way to differentiate at the end and set myself apart where there isn't competition. I think this last idea of maybe bringing in those promotional aspects, some street level, info box type ideas, I think that covers quite a range of the sales cycle, and maybe helps me identify those invisible prospects and then make that mafia offer at the end that's going to be
right. Show people how to make a return, how to get a return on their signage. Right. So that theme through there, and those multiple aspects of that, and that's great.
some really great ideas to look toward implementing this here in the next few months for sure.
That's awesome. Cool. Well, I enjoyed our conversation. I think you got a great opportunity here.
Well, thank you, Dean. And yes, I very much enjoyed it. I enjoy everything you do. I mean, it's really, I've learned a lot from you. I thoroughly enjoy your conversations with Dan Sullivan. Love the marketing show with Joe as well. And, this is really engaging to me to be on this phone conversation with you, but just, on an ongoing basis to have you there riding along in the car with me as I'm, trying to build a business.
Awesome.
Yeah. Fantastic, Dean. Well, thank you very much for your time.
Awesome. Keep me posted. Let me know what you end up doing too.
Okay, I will do. Thanks, Dean.
Thanks, Kirby. Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
And there we have it. That was a fun episode. I think the idea that we kind of hit on there at the end of the call, thinking about maybe creating a opportunity that doesn't already exist, might be a nice way to kind of expand Kirby's after unit with the clients that he already has. Now that we've got your main sign, let's talk about what we can do on the ground here strategically to start using signs to use it as a real marketing tool. So that I'm excited to hear how that maybe plays out. I think he's pretty confident in his ability to be able to build some relationships with the realtors who are finding the people who are going to be his future customers, and maybe collaborating or helping out the realtors to find those people as well. So lots of great stuff. I really enjoyed that episode. If you want to be a guest on the show and hatch some evil schemes for your business, just go to morecheeselesswhiskers.com. You can download a copy of the More Cheese, Less Whiskers book and just click on the Be a Guest link. Tell me a little bit about your business, and maybe we can talk about it right here. If you want to see where the opportunities are in your business as far as applying the 8 profit activators that we talk about, you can go to profitactivatorscore.com, and you can do our online Profit Activator scorecard, and it'll let you know where the big opportunities are, which of the 8 profit activators is where the big breakthrough is for you right now. And I think you'll really enjoy that. That's it for this week. Have a great week, and I will talk to you next time.